Hello guys, Sapphire Alchemy. You can call me Khaleesi Sapphire, and I'm here with the review of Reign, episode 10 from the second season, titled Mercy. This is the winter finale of the show. So within this episode, we have, as we've seen in last week's episode, in the search for Mary's attackers, numerous Protestants, including Casseroy, are then in prison. Francis has a dozen Protestants publicly hanged. He throws Narcisse in the dungeon and finally confesses to Mary that Narcisse has been blackmailing him this entire freaking time. Mary and Louis follow a lead to her attackers, eventually finding them and burning them to death. Now, when I'm glad that Francis finally told Mary what happened, but this literally him finally telling the truth literally is about to backfire on him, and I'm about to get into that later. And so Mary and Francis, and Bash included, they're sort of worried about the way Francis is sort of handling the situation, because he's starting to sound a little bit like a daddy. Like there was a scene where he's like, I will give him a king to fear. I'm like, okay, you start to sound like King Henry. You start to sound like your daddy, Francis. He's like that apple ain't fall too far from the tree, apparently. So we started to see Francis maybe be a little bit too much like his daddy. And so then when Mary and Louis, when they find the killers, Conde realizes that by Mary's behavior and by the way the man is talking to her, that the man actually violated Mary. And he goes, "You savage!" And he's about to like run him through. And Mary's like, "No." And at first she was gonna decide, I'm not gonna do nothing, But I'm gonna put you in prison and let you suffer for the harm you have done to me and stuff like that. But the man's like, pretty much like, I don't freaking care. You deserve what I gave to you because you and your husband killed my son and blah blah blah. Mary's like, oh really? She tears like, I think it was a candle. She throws it on him. He's like, I'm on fire, I'm burning. And then Mary's like, kill them both. And Carla's like, okay, it kills the other dude with the sword and the place burns down. Mary thought that Mary then comes to the realization that she thought that by killing her assailants, the people who have done this traumatic thing to her, that maybe she would find some peace, but it's not going to be that easy, and she's going to literally need time to heal from this, because that's how rape is. Rape is just because if the attackers go to jail or die, doesn't mean that it's automatically going to be like a patch and you're like, you're healed up. It's gonna take some time, because that's a traumatic experience. You were violated emotionally, physically, and mentally. That's gonna take some while to heal from. And so Casseroy is released due to Leah's petitioning, because Francis did owe him a favor, because he did sort of take away his lands and gave it to Narcisse. So you did kind of owe him that, Francis. And so Greer tells him to leave court without her so he won't be suspected of wrongdoing. And in addition to seeing her dead daughters, Catherine starts to see Henry's ghost. Now, the way she saw Henry's ghost, it was like, okay, Catherine's a bear, right? And you just see like this thing moving in between her, I'm guessing, on her legs, you see it pop up. I'm like, what kind of freaky ghost stuff is this? Like, apparently even in death, King Henry is a sex fiend. Like, she starts having sex with the ghost of her husband. I'm like, I'm just thinking, like, is it even possible to have a sex with a ghost? Like, And then Louis receives a visit from his brother, Antoine, King of Navarre, who reminds Louis not to sympathize with Mary because they have their own agenda. I'm like, no, I love you, Louis Conde. Why are you doing this to me? Why? We trusted you. Like, he trusted you. You would never be one of the people. And so later, Mary receives Louis' delayed letter where he confesses his love for her. So I'm like, oh snap, I knew what's gonna happen. I knew what's gonna happen. So within this episode, I still got finished. And Mary decides that due to the fact that Francis did not tell her that Narcisse was blackmailing her, she pretty much partially blames her rape on Francis, because due to his actions, due to him not confiding in his wife about what Lord Cease was blackmailing him. All this has accumulated into this tension between these Catholics and Protestants, and to these acts of war that resulted in her being raped. So she does blame him for a part of this. So she said that she's gonna pretty much say that they're only gonna be wife and husband in name and not any physical thing. So Francis started to feel bad. He's like, oh my God, he's like, I pretty much freaking ruined my own marriage. And not only that, when Mary reads the letter from Louis, she realizes that he confesses his love for her, and she does. In the fact that the way she responds to the letter about her facial expression, you see that she has kind of grown to love him too, which has resulted in, because Francis was keeping secrets from Mary and not really confiding in his wife and sort of becoming distant. Of course, she's going to start consoling and being closer to another man, because Francis, you're not there. You're not doing your duties as a husband. Yes, you're a king, but you also are a husband, you know. So we're seeing how everything from episode 5 up to 10 has sort of accumulated into this situation, which has pretty much just strained Mary's and Francis' relationship, that I don't know if it can be repaired. If it can, it's going to seriously take some time. You also have Lord Narcisse starting to feel bad about what he has done, and that his actions have resulted into this, and now he's literally is sort of being a puppet for Francis, because Francis has sort of manned up, but with Francis manning up, it's like, how much is too much? Like, it's sort of like he's borderline of one. He's sort of, Francis now is, to me, is a point of, he's borderline of the king that he wants to be, and to the king that his daddy was. It's like he's sort of at that line. It's like, how far will he go into his father's territory? Not only that, we now know why Louis is there in the first place at court. But since he and his brother have their own agenda, because they are also in line for the throne of France. Francis only has one heir to the throne, but is a bastard child. So majority of the people of France are not going to recognize that child. The son has to come from Mary's womb. If it doesn't come from Mary's womb, these people are not going to recognize him. Same thing as with Bash. They really don't recognize Bash as a, child of France, because he's the bastard child. He's the child of the mistress. So, with Louis having been falling in love with Mary, his agenda and his love for her is about to be a problem. And not only that, Louis and Francis are literally about to be a battle for Mary's heart. Bash, I'm not sure if they're gonna put it back in the picture, because we see he has moved on with Kenna, but that would be interesting if Bash still had feelings for Mary, and then it became a battle for Mary's heart between three dudes: the King of France, what the heck is Bash's station again? I'm trying to remember the station, because his dad gave him a stupid station, but Francis gave him the deputy, the king's deputy, and you got Louis, another heir to the French throne. So also, another thing that would be also interesting to see if they're going to bring back sometime this season is the prophecy that Notre Dame says that after a year of being married to Mary, Francis will eventually die. So that question is this going to be the year that Francis dies, or will Catherine's first child come back and they eventually kill her in order for Francis not to succumb to that prophecy? So that definitely will be interesting to see the rest of the season, how this is gonna, what's gonna happen within the court of France and all these characters. I love Reign. It's really, really a good show, and I'm loving what is going on with the season so far. It's getting more into depth with these characters and the political and power struggles of pretty much being a freaking royal or trying to be in any sort of power position. So that's definitely good to see how they're going with this. So comment, rate, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts, and I will see you guys January 22nd for Reign's return.